Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Oxygen for the Soul. This week is a double whammy, Perashat Ahare Mot Kedoshim. It is a parshiot that give over so much depth into two concepts. One, which is a holiness in space, and another, a holiness in time. I want to focus a little bit on Kedoshim. I think it's very relevant, especially with what's been going on around the world right now. Pasuk begins in the second half of the Torah reading this week. וידבר של משה לאמור, דבר אל כל עדת בני ישראל, ואמרת להם, קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני Hashem Elohechem. Hashem speaks to Moshe, saying, speak to the entire assembly, כל עדת בני ישראל, and ואמרת להם, tell them, קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני Hashem, I am holy, and therefore you should be holy. Now, what's interesting is that this pasuk of Kedoshim Tiyu, it's not a suggestion, it's a command. There is a mitzvah for us to be kadosh. But what does kadosh actually mean? Is it about, separation? Is it about spirituality? When you think of the word holiness, what comes to mind? Is it about morality or is it something else? What do you think Kedoshim is about? Now, there's actually a famous machloket between Rashi and the Rambam. Okay, Nachmanides and Rashi. Rashi said, Rashi holds that being holy means to be separate. Kadosh means to separate from things that are forbidden relationships, forbidden foods, forbidden desires. Holiness equals discipline and restraint. Whereas the Ramban says that holiness means going beyond the letter of the law. It means being ethical, it means being refined, it means being elevated. And therefore, according to the Ramban, holiness, Kedusha, means living with intentionality. It means living in a world of holiness, even in permitted areas. So holiness, according to both, is not about being religious in appearance. It's about being godlike in action. Now, it's interesting if you look at, the God of Israel. When we talk about God, it's very different than most of the other religions. Monotheism, especially Jewish monotheism, is really about the idea that God takes no physical form, but yet somehow he is holy. He's asking us to be holy. He is separate. He is above and beyond nature. He is something that is outside of the earthly realm, but yet he creates these earthly things. So it's interesting. Why is it that the Torah tells us that in this particular way that Moshe had to gather all the people? It's just interesting, right? Moshe, daber el bnei Israel, Kol Adad. Why does everyone have to be there for this? This couldn't have been like an easy halakha to teach everybody. Why is everyone being called to this particular misorah, this particular giving over of ideas from Moshe to the people? They could have heard it from everybody else. Parshat Vayikra, Parshat Kedoshim is often called a holiness code. It's got a whole list of mitzvot that, from every area of your life that wants you to be holy. You want you to be honest in your business, don't gossip, give kavod to the elderly, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, as this week's parasha, leave food to the poor. Holiness is not about, not just in the Beit Midrash or in the Beit Knesset. Holiness is in the grocery store. It's on social media. It's what it's like being on campus. It's how you treat other people. Last night at Columbia University, there was a whole bunch of protests with these, Free Palestine students, these people that are supporting Hamas on campus. And it's. I have no problem with people protesting. People should protest, but do it in a way that's got kavod. You have no right to come into a library and graffiti it up and hurt people because of your message. Get a permit, go to a park, sing songs, kumbaya, whatever it is. But violence of that nature is the opposite of Kedusha. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs once famously said that God is to be found not just in the heavens, but in how we treat one another. I love that quote because people think that, I see this often in religious circles, more religious circles. Sometimes in the more religious circles, people get so caught up on the religious acts, of feeling religious, wrapping your tefillin and getting to synagogue on time and, shushing people, whatever it is, all those religious things that people are doing. Now, I'm not saying that there's no room for criticism there also. There is. But if your criticism often comes at the expense of other people, you're messing it up. The reason why every single one, Kol Adat B'nai Yisrael, have to be invited to this particular gathering to hear these mitzvot is because in the ancient world, Kedusha was something that was reserved for the Kohen, for the priests. I could go ahead and do whatever I want. You've heard the idea like, you could be a good Jew at home, but do whatever you want outside. That's not Judaism. Judaism demands the kind of Kedusha that you carry with you wherever you go, just like a priest has to behave a certain way everywhere he goes, every minute of his life. The Kohen Gadol, the first part of the Torah reading in Ahare Mot, talk about the Kohen Gadol and the process that he has to go through to keep himself kadosh. That's us. That's not just some random guy who's working in the temple. We're supposed to be holy too. Now, what's interesting, and this is why Kedusha is so complicated. There's the Ramban is a fascinating character. He was a doctor. He was a Kabbalist. He lived in Spain, and the king at the time was named King Aragon. It's like in the late 1200s. King Aragon the First, and he was a pagan. His wife was becoming Christian, and he was fascinated by debate. He was a very big believer that anyone should have the right to lodge forward a debate, and the best person that wins the debate should be given credit for winning the debate. So there was a guy by the name of Pablo Cristiani, who was a Jewish monk who converted to Christianity, and he wanted to debate the Ramban Nachmanides, and let's debate Nachmanides. If I could convince Nachmanides to become Christian, then all the Jews will follow. He failed, obviously. It was called they put together a book called The Disputation, which is actually a fascinating read of the conversation and the hearings that went back and forth between the Ramban and Pablo Cristiani. Now, part of the rules they set up was that no one was allowed to publish anything afterwards. Well, at least the Ramban was not allowed to publish anything afterwards. The Ramban won the debate. Pablo Cristiani published his own account of what happened and said that the Ramban lost. The Ramban was frustrated that they lied, and then created a counter paper proving that verbatim everything that happened, writing it all out and spelling it very clear. He crushed him again. But because they made it illegal, now the church was coming after him because he broke the law. So a week, I think, before they were going to arrest the Ramban, the king calls on the Ramban and told him what happened. And I said, listen, I want to give you a reward, like 10,000 gold coins, which is like a crazy number. He's like, take the money and leave, but just tell me a little more about your religion. He never converted to Judaism. He was a pagan, but he was very curious about how does a king have 18 wives. In the Christian world, you couldn't do that. In that world, you could only have a one wife, and that was it. But in Judaism, a king was allowed to have that. How does that work, right? So for the Ramban, his view is that Kedusha means going above and beyond the letter of the law, right? You have to live with refinement, with dignity, with purpose. You can be technically, he has this concept of naval b'reshut haTorah, a degenerate with Torah permission, meaning you can have a guy who's a Torah scholar, who's overeating, who's loud and obnoxious. He's got excessive behavior, and that's not technically forbidden, but that's not what the Torah wants. The Torah is shalom. The Torah wants peace. It wants something that is pleasant. As a matter of fact, there's a Mishnah, right? We talk about the idea of Kedoshim. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says that how do you know that you're doing something that is aligned with what Hashem wants? If it is something that kol sheruach habriot nocha hemenu, ruach hamakom nocha hemenu, v'kol she'en ruach habriot nocha hemenu, en ruach hamakom nocha hemenu. Anyone with whom people are pleased, God is pleased with him. But anyone with whom people are not pleased, God is not pleased with him. That means if a person wants to know whether he is holy, if he is kadosh, right? If he wants to know that if God likes him, well, he should just know to check around what people are thinking of him. If people are pleased with him, that indicates that he is sanctified, he's got good midot, he's got good behavior, and that means Hashem is pleased with him. But if people are not pleased with him, then there's something wrong with what he is doing. There's something wrong with his Kedusha, right? So you have this idea that, well, Kedusha means to hold back, to constrain. God's not saying you can't have the Gashmi, you can't have the physical world. Have Gashmiut. Holiness isn't just what you avoid, it's about how you live every moment. It's about elevating as permitted. It's about not being happy with status quo, recognizing that sometimes our base desires need to be elevated to something more. So Rashi focuses, Kedoshim, to be separate, separate yourself from sin. Ramban says, you know what? Don't think of it in the negative terms. Think about it as in the positive way. Elevate everyday actions into Kedusha. Right? Whereas Rashi focuses on, restraining yourself from that which is asur, from that which is prohibited. Ramban is saying, refine the things that are permitted. And this was like a crazy idea. Like, I can do all these things, but as long as my focus is something more. The Gemara tells us that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi was a super wealthy individual. The guy was loaded. He was one of the most wealthy people that ever lived, but yet the Gemara tells us that he did not enjoy from anything in this world. How's that possible? How can you have someone who has everything? You're saying he didn't have a cake, he didn't enjoy, he didn't have mustard with his pastrami, he didn't have, a tahina with his maza. Like, how is that possible that he didn't enjoy anything in this world? And the answer is that when someone is so focused, singularly focused on kedusha, right? The little things like the pizza or whatever, the food like the coffee with the cream and the foam, that's irrelevant. That's not why I'm here. I'm here for something more profound. I am here to bring God into this world. Well, how do I do that? Torah is giving you a message. This is why everyone is called down. Every single Jew is asked to participate in this, meeting, because this is what Hashem wants for all of Am Yisrael. He doesn't want it to be. He doesn't want the Jewish people to have this separate class between the holy class and the other people. All humanity is supposed to be upgraded. These people that are going out and protesting, and these other people around the world that are doing these crazy things, they say often they're doing what they're doing in the name of their religion. That's not Kedusha. There's something broken there. And if we don't have a clarity with what our moral fibers are, we don't have clarity in our moral obligation, we don't have clarity with what our core values are, then the world around you will tell you what to do. There's a reason why the West is falling apart. There's a reason why Harvard is struggling to condemn anti-Semitism. All these universities, they killed God. The Torah demanded us to elevate humanity. We failed. All the religions have failed their people. I can't explain why. But I believe there are still individuals left on this planet on all sides, everywhere on the planet. In every group of people, there are some really good people that understand this concept, that to be kadosh means at the core to love human beings. That's why V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is in this week's Parsha. That's why right now I'm growing out my sphere beard, because I'm remembering and reminded of the fact that Rabbi Kiva had 12,000 pairs of students that were perfectly set up with each other. Guys were exactly alike, but yet no interest in giving kavod to the other, no interest in honoring the other. If there's no honor, there's no humility. There's no humility, there's no yirah, there's no fear, there's no yirah, there's no godliness. They're interconnected. So the Parsha is about not just being ritualistically religious. It's about how we conduct our behavior to one another. How do we treat each other? How do we act when no one is watching? If Ahare Mot, the Parsha over there teaches about how to honor God through Yom Kippur, through sacred space and serious preparation. Kedoshim, this Parsha reminds us that the true test of Kedusha is in the everyday mundane things, how we speak, how we treat one another, how we love, how we care, how we go out and even protest. Anyway, Bezrat Hashem, in the zchut of these ideas, may we have our hostages returned soon. May our soldiers, wherever they may be protected. May the world get back to a place of peace. Let us focus on what truly matters. We're here to bring God into the world. Each person is created in the image of God. Let's not forget that. Let's bring holiness to every aspect of our lives, in our homes, especially our families, our children, our friends, our community. Let's turn this world, which is seems to me like it's falling off the edge into the precipice of darkness, into a world of the light, the Kedusha. Let's become the oRna goyim. Let's be the light unto the nation, so we can get the clarity back to the world, so we could do what we're meant to do here. Let's bring Mashiach now, my friends. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Looking forward to continuing the conversation next week, everybody.